I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you.
Oh my goodness.
Y'all know the DNA came back here. Y'all know that's my son, baby. Stop playing. We ain't gonna tell y'all. Y'all just keep guessing.
You said stop playing with him, okay?
If that shit would have came back negative, we would have been like, that ain't all, baby. Oh, shit. They want to know how come I didn't know that Hazel was 45, because Bree been on duty and
You should have known. You should have known.
she been off duty and she ain't told me nothing.
Right.
I never in my life watched Love and Hip Hop, y'all. Just so y'all know, people,
She hasn't.
real TV people from back in the day, we were bitter about reality TV because it robbed us of our dreams.
This wasn't a slip. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't somebody talking too much on accident. This was deliberate, calculated, and loud in the way only family drama can be. Blueface's mom Karlissa didn't just speak, she detonated the timeline. And once she did, there was no putting this toothpaste back in the tube. Because when a mother starts talking DNA results, you already know it's about to get ugly. But Karlissa didn't stop there. She took the conversation, spun it sideways, and dragged Hazel E's age straight into the spotlight like it owed her money, and suddenly, one family update turned into a full-blown internet spectacle. This wasn't this was paperwork energy. This was I have receipts and I'm not afraid to use them energy. The kind that makes reality TV look tame and celebrity apologies look pointless. Fans froze. Critics scrambled. Comment sections combusted. Because once Karlissa said what she said, people realized this wasn't about gossip anymore. This was about legitimacy, timelines, and truths people thought were already settled. This made the Kardashians look organized. This made Love and Hip Hop feel scripted. Because when DNA tests and age callouts collide in the same sentence, you're not watching drama, you're watching reputations shift in real time. Karlissa didn't wake up and decide to be subtle. That's never been her brand. When she speaks, it's never an accident, and it's definitely never quiet. So when she started talking about Junior's DNA test results, people knew immediately this wasn't casual conversation. This wasn't a slip of the tongue. This was a decision. And decisions like that usually mean someone is done protecting feelings and ready to protect facts. She didn't ease into it either. No soft launch, no vague hints. Karlissa spoke with the confidence of someone who believed the paperwork backed her up, and that confidence alone changed the temperature of the room. DNA isn't gossip. DNA is final. DNA doesn't care about opinions, vibes, or public sympathy. And the moment Karlissa brought it up, the internet leaned forward collectively. Because now this wasn't speculation anymore. This was documentation. Energy. But the real shock wasn't just that she spoke on the test. It was how calmly she did it. There was no emotional spiral, no dramatic breakdown. Just a matter-of-fact tone that suggested this information had been sitting there for a while, waiting for the right moment to be released. And when someone speaks calmly about explosive information, it hits harder than screaming ever. Fans immediately started asking why now? Why reopen something people assumed was already settled? Why bring new results to the table when the dust seemed to have at least partially settled? And that's when the theories started flying. Because timing in family drama is never random. It's reactive. It's strategic. It's usually triggered by something happening behind the scenes that the public hasn't fully clocked yet. Then Karlissa pivoted, smoothly, almost casually. And that pivot is what sent the entire conversation into overdrive. Because suddenly, Hazel E's age entered the discussion like a plot twist nobody saw coming. One moment the internet was processing DNA results. The next it was doing math, pulling old interviews, and rewatching clips like this was a courtroom trial instead of social media. That shift doubled the chaos instantly, because now this wasn't just about Junior. It was about timelines, about credibility, about whether certain narratives still made sense when you laid everything out in chronological order. And the internet loves nothing more than a timeline it can poke holes in. Karlissa didn't sound hesitant. She didn't say allegedly. She didn't cushion it with disclaimers. She spoke like someone correcting the record, not starting a rumor, and that delivery split the audience right down the middle. One side applauded her, saying she finally said what others were dancing around, that age matters when people are selling stories. And timelines matter when the public is expected to accept certain versions of events. The other side accused her of crossing a line, saying some things don't need to be addressed publicly, especially when family and children are involved. But even the critics had to admit one thing. This didn't feel impulsive. It felt intentional. Once the clips started circulating, social media turned into an investigation board. People dug up old posts, screenshots, interviews, and dates. Comments stopped being emotional and started being analytical. When audiences start calculating instead of reacting, the entire tone of a scandal changes. The DNA reveal alone would have been enough to dominate headlines. But pairing it with an age escalate shifted the conversation from family dispute to narrative reset, because now people weren't just debating what happened. They were questioning how long they'd been accepting a version of events that might not fully add up. Blueface's name hovered over the entire situation like an echo nobody could escape. Even without speaking, his presence shaped every reaction. Fans speculated how this would affect relationships behind closed doors. Would this deepen already existing fractures? Or was this simply the public catching up to private realities that had been unfolding for years? Hazel E became a focal point whether she wanted to or not. Supporters argued the age discussion was irrelevant and unnecessary. Others countered that age and timing become relevant the moment narratives are monetized and public sympathy is involved. And that debate got heated fast. What made Karlissa's words so disruptive wasn't just their content. It was her refusal to soften them. She didn't try to be liked. She didn't try to be diplomatic. She spoke like someone who had already accepted the backlash and decided truth was worth the smoke. Accusations of clout chasing surfaced almost immediately, but they didn't stick. Because dragging DNA results and personal timelines into public conversation isn't a light move. That's scorched earth territory. People don't do that for casual attention. They do it when they feel ignored, dismissed, or misrepresented. Long enough, comment sections turned into battlegrounds. Supporters called Karlissa brave and direct. Critics called her messy and invasive. Neutral observers called the situation inevitable. And through all of it, one uncomfortable reality settled in. When family speaks, it carries weight outsiders can't replicate. This wasn't blog speculation or third-party gossip. This was internal. And internal revelations hit differently because they come with history, emotion, and access outsiders don't have. By the time the first wave of reactions flowed, one thing was clear. Karlissa didn't just add information to an existing conversation, she reset it. She forced people to revisit assumptions they thought were settled and reconsider narratives they'd accepted without quest. Once Karlissa's words finished bouncing around the internet, the reaction phase officially mutated into something far more dangerous. This wasn't shock anymore. This was obsession. The timeline didn't just react. It mobilized. Screenshots started flying like subpoenas. Old interviews resurfaced like unearthed fossils. And suddenly, everyone with Wi-Fi became a self-appointed investigator with a calculator and a theory. The DNA discussion alone would have dominated the news cycle. But the moment Hazel E's age entered the conversation, it became a math problem. And nothing triggers the internet faster than public math. People weren't arguing feelings anymore. They were counting years, lining up dates, and side-dyeing gaps that never raised eyebrows before. The tone shifted from outrage to interrogation. Memes came first, because humor is how the internet sharpens knives. One viral post compared Karlissa to a court clerk casually dropping evidence on the table. Another joked that the DNA test had more plot twists than a Netflix docuseries. Someone else captioned a reaction video. When family brings paperwork instead of opinions, and that line alone did numbers. TikTok went feral. Creators stitched Karlissa's statements with dramatic music, freezing frames like they were analyzing surveillance footage. Hazel E's old interviews were clipped and replayed with dates flashing on screen. Comments stopped being emotional and started sounding like courtroom cross-examinations. Every pause, every statement, every timeline detail was suddenly on trial. Public outrage split into layers. The loudest voices accused Karlissa of being reckless, saying family matters shouldn't be handled in public, especially when children are involved. That argument gained traction for about 5 minutes before another group fired back that public narratives invite public scrutiny. Stories are being sold. Timelines are fair game. And that's when the conversation turned ugly. Not loud ugly. Sharp ugly. The kind where people stop yelling and start questioning credibility. Hazel E became a lightning rod overnight. Some fans defended her fiercely, calling the age discussion irrelevant and invasive. Others argued that age matters when context is being shaped for sympathy and attention. Neither side budged. Celebrity reaction wasn't direct, but it was loud in silence. Reality figures posted cryptic captions about truth always resurfacing and facts don't need defending. Nobody named names, but the timing said everything. When people who live in the same ecosystem start speaking in riddles, it usually means the air just got uncomfortable. Blueface's silence only added gasoline. Fans dissected the quiet like it was a statement itself. Some read it as strategic avoidance. Others saw it as exhaustion. Either way, the lack of response allowed speculation to grow unchecked. And speculation thrives in silence the way mold thrives in darkness. Commentary channels jumped in head first. Thumbnails screamed words like exposed, receipts, and this changes everything. Podcasts debated whether Karlissa crossed a line or finally drew one. And the most unsettling conclusion kept surfacing over and over again. This didn't feel impulsive. It felt timed. Pop culture comparisons went nuclear. People said this was giving Kris Jenner energy without the PR filter. Others compared it to celebrity custody battles where paperwork ends careers faster than scandals. One viral tweet said, "When moms start talking DNA, the season is over." And that line spread like wildfire. The internet also started questioning why this conversation resurfaced now. What triggered it? What narrative was being challenged? What story was about to be cemented that Karlissa clearly didn't agree with? Because in public family drama, timing is rarely random. It's responsive. It's corrective. That's when theories multiplied. Some believed Karlissa was responding to misinformation circulating privately. Others thought this was about setting the record straight before something bigger dropped. And a third group suspected this was about control, not dominance. Control of truth. What unsettled people most wasn't the content, it was the confidence. Karlissa spoke like someone who wasn't worried about being contradicted. That posture alone made people nervous because confidence without hesitation suggests preparation, and preparation suggests receipts. Hazel E's name continued trending whether she engaged or not. Fans watched for a response, any response, but every hour of silence only amplified the speculation. The longer the quiet stretched, the louder the internet filled it with assumptions. At this point, the scandal wasn't about who was right. It was about whose version would survive. Because once multiple narratives collide publicly, only one gets cemented in collective memory. And the internet doesn't forget the first version it believes. The outrage cycle reached its peak when fans realized something uncomfortable. Nobody involved seemed surprised. Reactions felt measured, responses felt delayed on purpose, and that realization made everything feel less explosive and more strategic. This wasn't chaos. This was collision, two versions of reality crashing. In public, with DNA, paperwork, and age timelines as the debris. By the end of this phase, people weren't asking whether Karlissa should have spoken. They were asking why the truth needed correcting in the first place. And once that question enters the chat, the situation stops being drama and starts being a warning sign. After the timeline cooled off, the damage didn't disappear. It settled quietly, permanently. This is the phase people underestimate because it doesn't come with trending hashtags or reaction thumbnails. It comes with energy changes, altered relationships, and narratives that can never be put back the way they were. And after Karlissa spoke, the atmosphere around everyone involved felt different, heavier, more cautious. The audience didn't stop watching, but they stopped watching the same way. That blind consumption vanished. Every new clip was examined for subtext. Every statement was weighed. Fans weren't reacting emotionally anymore. They were evaluating strategically. Who benefits from this version? Who loses if it sticks? And who's staying silent because silence suddenly feels safer than speaking? Karlissa's public image hardened into something sharper. To supporters, she became the unapologetic truth teller, the one willing to bring paperwork into a conversation full of opinions. They saw her as a mother protecting accuracy when narratives started drifting too far from reality. To critics, she became reckless, accused of crossing boundaries that didn't need to be crossed publicly. And once again, the truth lived in that uncomfortable middle space where intention and impact don't always align. Blueface's position grew more complicated by the hour, even without speaking. His silence carried weight. Fans debated whether he was staying out of it intentionally or whether the situation had already moved beyond anything he could control. Some believed the silence was strategic. Others believed it was exhaustion. Either way, the absence of a response allowed the public to fill in blanks freely, and that rarely benefits anyone. Hazel E faced a different kind of aftermath. The age conversation didn't fade. It lingered, not loudly, but persistently. People questioned timelines more than they questioned character, and that distinction mattered. Because once credibility enters the chat, the debate shifts from emotion to perception, and perception is far harder to repair than reputation. Supporters defended her fiercely, saying the conversation never should have gone there. Critics insisted that once personal narratives are public, scrutiny follows naturally. That standoff didn't resolve. It calcified, and unresolved debates tend to resurface when least expected. Especially in an internet that never forgets screenshots behind the scenes. Relationships recalibrated, conversations got shorter, trust got thinner, people chose words carefully, like they were negotiating terms instead of expressing feelings. When facts are introduced into emotional environments, everything tightens up. The spontaneity fades, the caution grows, the broader public conversation shifted too. Fans started questioning how often family members feel forced to speak publicly to correct narratives they didn't create. Others asked whether silence should be expected when misinformation circulates freely, and that debate extended far beyond this situation, tapping into a larger cultural tension about privacy versus public storytelling. Karlissa didn't walk anything back. She didn't clarify, she didn't apologize. And that refusal to soften her stance sent a clear message. She wasn't trying to be liked, she was trying to be accurate in a world obsessed with optics. Choosing accuracy over approval is a dangerous move. Industry observers quietly acknowledged what most wouldn't say publicly. Once DNA and timelines enter a public conversation, there's no neat ending. Those details don't fade the way opinions do. They linger, waiting to be referenced again when narratives shift. The long-term consequence wasn't cancellation or collapse, it was recalibration. Everyone involved had to adjust to a new reality where assumptions were questioned and stories required verification. That doesn't destroy public figures. It restrains them. It forces caution where freedom once existed. Fans didn't move on, they archived, they bookmarked, they waited. Because once an audience senses unresolved tension, it doesn't forget. It watches for the next chapter, the next response, the next contradiction. And that's the real aftermath, not the outrage. Not the memes, but the awareness. Awareness that certain stories aren't finished just because the internet quiets down. They pause, they wait, they resurface when context changes. Karlissa didn't just add fuel to a fire. She altered the terrain. She shifted how people interpret everything that comes next. And once that shift happens, there's no reset button. This situation didn't explode into chaos at the end. It settled into something more dangerous, unresolved truth, lingering doubt, and a public that now knows there's more beneath the surface than what's being said. Now, if you're still here, don't act surprised. That means this breakdown hit. The receipts shook you. And your timeline is officially never recovering. So go ahead and smash that like button like it owes you back rent, because the algorithm loves chaos and we are not letting this one disappear quietly. Drop a comment right now and tell me this. Did Karlissa cross the line? Or did she finally say what everyone else was tiptoeing around? No fence sitting, pick a side. Because the comment section is the real courtroom. And the jury is always loud. And if you're watching this without subscribing, that's risky behavior. Hit that subscribe button like you just realized someone's been lying in the group chat for years, because these scandals don't come with warnings. And when the next DNA update, timeline slip, or family truth bomb drops, it's landing right here first. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of Real Life Chaos, because this story isn't done. Facts don't evaporate, timelines don't forget. And silence never lasts as long as people think it will. Somebody always responds. Somebody always cracks. This channel isn't about playing nice or protecting fake narratives. We break down the mess, decode the motives, and say the quiet part loud with sarcasm, context, and zero fear of backlash, while other channels recycle headlines. We connect the dots and ask the uncomfortable questions. So stay locked in, stay messy, stay curious, because the internet never forgets, and neither do we. Welcome to Celeb SYNC, where the drama doesn't just trend, it aligns. It aligns.